Okay, it is 5:30, so I will call the meeting to order. This is the work session for the City Council of Minnetrista, August 1st. First order, I'm going to do a quick roll call. We have Director of Public Works, Gary Peters, Director of Administration, Ali Paulfus, Don Motzko, our City Clerk, City Engineer, Allison Fowski, City Council, Kathleen Refkin, Ann McGregor, Pam Mortensen. Let the record reflect, John Chamberlain is absent this evening. I'm Lisa Whalen, the Mayor. We also have Jasper Krugel, our City Administrator, Brian Grimm, our Finance Director, and David Abel, our Community Development Director, and Paul False, our Chief of Police. With that, we're going to add one item to our agenda. We have our budget discussion, number 2. Number 3, we have our language clarification for sod installation, and then we're going to add a Bolton and Bank invoice discussion, and then we will adjourn. So with that, I'll hand it over to Brian right away for budget discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor and Council, and I'll give a preview right off the bat. I have 15 slides, so I don't have like 30 or 40 like some of the engineers at the last meeting. I think I found one group that's probably a little more long-winded than accountants as engineers, I think, or whatever. So. Sorry.
Sorry, Allison.
But, all right, I'll get to it here. So, first couple slides will just be pretty similar to previous years. Just a reminder that the preliminary tax levy we need to certify by the end of September. I don't think we'll have any challenges doing that, but I just put that out there. I think I mentioned that in the memo. As far as a timeline, so we're meeting tonight. If we need to discuss at subsequent work sessions, there will be some available, and then I think the goal would be to probably adopt at one of the 2 September meetings the preliminary levy. So that would be either that first meeting in September or the September 19th, one of those two. Just as far as things that staff tries to balance when presenting to council and getting council's feedback, obviously first and foremost is financial stability, making sure we're balancing how much we're levying in taxes versus how much we have in city funds, specifically the general fund. And then, as well as that, looking at our capital equipment plan, and that was attached in the packet as far as making sure we have the right amount of, or the right equipment, so police and public works and technology and all that can happen, and everyone can do their jobs effectively. As far as monitoring service levels, we do that, and this year we have added the public works, and we're looking for the police position, so that's some. We're doing that 2022 and beyond. And then the pavement management plan has obviously been a big topic of discussion probably the last 8-10 years plus or whatever, as far as making sure, and I think we have done a good job of being better with our road maintenance as well as our road capital improvements. So quick overview of how the different components of the tax levy. So you can see the first 3 columns are just the trend for 2020, 21, and 2022. So you can see at the end of 2022, our total net levy, which is the amount that gets spread to our residents, it's after fiscal disparities. As far as we get about $160,000 back from. It's not just the county. I guess it's a program that, based on that we don't have a lot of commercial property, we get some dollars back. Is in essence what fiscal disparities is. So you can see we were a little over $5.2 million and for the current year's budget for taxes, and you can see the different components there. The general fund debt, road maintenance, and the capital or equipment levy. You can see the 2023 proposed, and I think we had given a little bit of a preview of this also. The general fund levy is where the majority of the increase is going to, and that has to do with a lot of the different salary and benefit items. It was referenced in the memo, and that we discussed at some of the prior meetings earlier in the summer. So you can see the total levy there would be just shy of the net levy, about $5.7 million, $5,687,000. So the debt levy pretty much offsets with what we're doing with the Mound Fire Department, pretty much bringing that over. Instead of having it be a debt levy more, it's just operational. They sort of replace the building debt there, so that's what you see there. And then the proposed levy has the road maintenance and the equipment staying the same. So I know we've sort of been building that up over the years, but in order to keep it around that 9% that we had talked about at one of the earlier meetings, those are able to stay the same but not go up at least. And obviously council can decide if they want that to go up, and then that can change the amount of the increase, or different effects can happen there. So some different, I guess, some key factors we always look at. There's the tax levy trend going back to 2018 from about 4.4 million up to about 5.6. The surplus, I guess the main item to put up there, the general fund reserves use surplus. 2020 was the year of the CARES dollars, so that's where you can see that. So if you add all these together, they pretty much almost come to the point where they net close to zero or whatever. So I think, and that's been the goal of the council, I think, is to try to get some of the fund balance. Well, in the line below, you can see we bumped up to 69% for 2020 when you compare fund balance to our expenditures in the general fund. So now we're looking at bringing that back closer to mid 40s. One thing we probably will do a little better than that 310,000 in 2022 based on some of our positions being open a little long. Some different factors that we probably won't spend all the budgeted dollars, but so maybe we'll be, whether it's 250 or something there, so we could have a little better positive variance there. Slide, hopefully it's big enough to see, but this is just something we show with our audit. So your glasses, you're not seeing that. So I'll explain it. So we're over here at about $700 per capita of current expenditures in the general fund. Some of our neighbors next to us are at Medina, Mound, Spring Park, are all more in the 700 range. So I guess what I'm trying to show here is that we probably have a little room to grow with some of our expenditures as far as when we compare to some of our neighbors, and that we're not out of line as far as by doing some of these increases to the general fund. I guess that's the main takeaway there. This next slide's going to be a little bigger, so you'll be able to see this. So everyone wants to know tax impact. It's always a big one, and I'll explain. We've got a few different, statistics going on here. So I think everyone's seen their 2022 for 2023 taxes, and I'm sure a lot of people have been blown away by 20% plus increases, but that's just what the market has done. So when I looked at some of the data that Kevin Wins provided, 23% is pretty standard increase as far as what people are seeing. So I use that. I guess whether it's residential versus lakeshore, there's a little difference, but it's all pretty much in the mid 20s, I guess, on average. So with using a 9% levy increase and about 3% growth in the city, our tax rate does come down to about a little over 19%. Right now it's about 23%. So when you plug all that information in, you've got the different property values there. 350 last year now is 430, and on down the line 500 is about 615,000. I think our median value property for 2022 is about 630,000 now, up from about a little over 500,000. That's pretty much is about that 20% or so. 20. So you can see obviously the main takeaway is what am I going to pay in taxes, the difference in 23 versus 2022 just based on this scenario, and you can see on the lower end it would be a couple bucks a month, basically $21. And when you get more to the middle to higher end homes, you're looking at $85 to $100 for an annual change or difference. You can see 1877 versus 1980s.
The only thing you need to do is also show an example. If somebody's valuation was, let's say, $495, and now it went up 23%, so it's 5 something. That's going to make that's going to make a bigger difference because of that going over the 500,000. So if you could show that too, then we can kind of see what that would look like.
Okay, and that sort of does reflect in this 500 to 615, because once you get over that, I know there's the
it's the 500,000, I think.
Yeah, for the class rates,
it
goes
from
class 1% to 1.25%. So that is showing. I mean, you can see how when you stay under 500,000, I mean, you're looking at a $20, $30 dollar increase for you, but it's the class rate helps accelerate that. But even at the $85, that's probably $7 a month. Am I doing that right? I think, or something like that. So not too bad or whatever in the grand scheme of things. Next slide, I think Lakeshore, maybe some of them had a little higher, so a 26% valuation increase bumps it up a little bit, not too much difference. So $40 to $157 based using on the same type of
Are there any lakeshore properties that are valued
Oh,
at 41?
well, yeah, no, not
I
probably not
don't
on the
think
line. So
Bad
more-
example.
No, yeah. Maybe this is more just to show if someone has a little more a higher increase, 25 plus 30%. This would be what they'd see if they had something more 20 to 23. The other example. So yeah, I guess these would be a little 750 to 945. Probably isn't even cutting it there, so or whatever. But. Another slide from our audit. We're on the left here as far as our taxes per capita for the most recent data at the state audit is 2020, but we were at 582, and you can see Orono, Medina, some of the other ones to the right there are in the 600s or whatever. So similar type thing that I don't think we're too out of line as far as the taxes we're collecting on a per capita basis. So. Slide here, the next two slides are just to incorporate the school district. So this slide here shows that for a property in basically West Tonka School District, and then this was last year's median value of $504,000. You can see the city portion is in green there. It's about 23% of your overall taxes. You're paying about $5,000 in the city shares, $1166 or whatever. So. You can see obviously the county and the school are 1 and 2 as far as just based on what they needed for their budgets. So, and then the purple is just more the miscellaneous watershed district, etc. Next slide just shows if people more. I guess this would be probably Hunter's Crest and some of the other ones in the Waconia School District. You can see they've I think done some pretty substantial improvements to the capital levies and stuff in their last several years over there. So. You can see our portion stays at the 1166, but it's 19% of their taxes because their total bill's, about 6,300. So I don't know. Once in a while we'll get someone in Hunter's Crest or whatever to say, oh, my taxes are so high, and that could be the different portions of your tax bill or whatever. So, but it's a good reminder for everyone that obviously we control the green there, but everything else is out of our control. So. Last few slides are more just a lot of these were highlighted in the memo that was in the packet. The budget assumptions and commitments. We talked about the labor contracts as well as the non-union salaries and benefits. Those are all pretty much fixed or locked in for 2023 based on collective bargaining as well as some of the actions that's been taken at the council this year. The police officer and public works maintenance worker, those are budgeted for full effect in 2023. So that's added. And then as far as the capital equipment. We're looking at doing a cash levy that referenced really the $150,000, but then there would be most likely an equipment certificate we'd add to one of the 2023 project financing. So either probably the roads project, but we've got a couple different financings coming up, whether it's the water treatment plant or something like the roads financing in 2023. So. Thank you.
But it would still be a capital equipment certificate.
Yeah, it would just be a sort of an additional piece. So when you
Right.
say we levy $8 million for roads or something, then we do an equipment certificate for about $250,000. You just sort of add that onto it or whatever.
Okay, so you're not paying so much for
the
bonding,
bond
yeah.
issuance costs. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Correct. Yep. Funding for the payment management. We looked.
So I'm sorry. Let me ask you a question. So with that, what would happen with so if we bond then in 23 for our equipment, what would happen with 150? Would that just carry over into 24 then?
Well, actually, what we're looking at is, I think it's better reflected in the packet data. It's basically, I think there was about 380,000 worth of improvements. So if we levy 150, we do the equipment certificate for the difference.
Okay.
But,
Okay, I was thinking. Okay, so
Yeah.
why? So you're not going to do it for the whole
we could. I mean, I guess if we wanted
amount. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking how, because then the following year we have over in 24 we had over 300,000 in CIP as well.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it make sense to bond for everything in 23? Keep the 150, carry that over to 24, so that in 24 you have 300, and then you don't bond in 24?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's actually a pretty good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think we would, because then we basically could almost, cash flow hopefully.
Right, and then after that, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I think, especially seeing, if you're going to do it for 225 or 390 or, you know, or whatever.
The
It's not
difference
very-
isn't going to be a huge
No,
difference.
as far as, yeah. So, no, I think we'll make a note, yeah,
Okay.
to do that, so it's a good idea. Okay. All right.
And then I think in 24, we'll have more coming off, more equipment certificates coming off the books too.
I think we've got our 2020 is our last one on the books right now, so I think
Okay, so
that'll
that'd
have
be
another
20
year or two. Yep.
So 2020, we still have 2, but don't we have one from 18, 19?
18, 19 we didn't have to do. 2017 was the last
Okay,
one before that.
all right.
Yep.
Right.
And then, yeah, so as far as the pavement management plans, we look to do the 875 again for 2023, and then we know we're looking at some decent debt issuance to go to fund the roads projects that we've talked about over the summer here. The general fund reserve dollars would be about 95,000. That's what we're looking at to using. So that would be down from that 300,000 for 22 with some of the just being able to. We're hoping to wean that down, and I think with what we've put together, we can get that down, and then hopefully back to a balanced budget in 2024. And then, yeah, I've talked about the fund balance policy would be about 45%, and that actually I think should say projected at the end of 2023. Oops, go back there.
So with the openings for in Public Works and also in the police, you know, they've been open longer than we anticipated. So are you still anticipating the fund balance at the end of 22 being around 51%, or will it be a little bit higher?
Could be a little bit higher. Maybe hopefully it would be like 52 or 53 or something. If it's, even if we save 50,000 or whatever,
Right.
roughly. So yeah.
So then the other question is, do we know, and I asked this earlier, where are we at in terms of permit revenue? Are we
Yeah.
pretty much on target?
Because I think we were at the end of June, we were like at about 390,000. I can bring up the other sheet here.
So what did you said we had 675
it was page-
budgeted?
75, 389.
Yep, yeah, so we were up at 389,000, and we budgeted 675, so that would be, we're a little under. So we could be pushing, hopefully, 750 or higher, I mean, potentially, if we keep going as we have been, right?
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to maybe be too
If,
aggressive,
yeah.
but 750 or something, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
So
right.
what I'm also wondering then, maybe sometime between September and December, do we want to adjust that 95K upwards then, so that we stay at 45%? Because, so if we do this plan and everything pans out the way we think for 22, and we do this plan, we're going to be at 45% fund balance, which is okay. I mean, I don't think we'd want to be below that. I think, but if it ends up where we're projecting our fund balance to be, let's say, 48%, would we want to use just a little bit more of our fund balance to offset the levy?
That, I guess, be something
I mean-
the council could look at if they wanted to come down to 8 or 8.5 or
It's a
something.
good idea. I would like to do that.
And just look at it, and then, I mean, we have to get to a balanced budget eventually, but, so, okay, just kind of keep that in mind, and we'll,
Sure. We'd look at that more like in October, November, once we have it.
I
after
think
we-
November,
Yeah.
probably, yeah, okay.
Okay. Yep, no, I think that's fair. And I just referenced in there that 35 to 50% is sort of that Office of the State Auditor guideline or whatever.
Right.
So, yep.
And I think that's what our fund balance policy says too, 35 to 50.
I think it does, and that I might be 40 because I know our policy, the minimum it says is 40 that we should shoot to be above. So I
Right.
don't, whether that was maybe when, I don't know, wanted to shoot a little higher than the state auditor's office
Yeah,
or whatever.
right.
There could have been some rationale. I know it's been that 40% for a long time.
Okay,
So.
and I think we'd want to stay, I would feel comfortable at 45, but I don't want to go below that. Is that, okay,
Okay.
all right.
So yeah, then just the last slide here, I guess, just to sum it up, is once again to remind, we're just looking for a consensus from council on acceptable preliminary levy by the end of September. At one of those meetings in September, trying to incorporate all those different general fund roads equipment, and I think we just talked about the final budget can be worked on through the fall, whether it's looking at how we're sitting for building permits or any different things like that. But once you certify something, you can't ever increase it. You have
Right,
to,
right.
stay the same or go down. So.
I don't think we'd want to go down at this point. But my question here is, and I'm a little confused. So go to page 3 in our packet.
Okay.
And it says number number E, addressing use of fund balance in 22 for 23. So expect for 22, we are projecting using about 300,000 as part of our 22 budget, adopted general fund budget. We are looking to bring that down to less than 100,000 for 23.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
The way it was written,
Right,
I was
yeah.
like, are we talking bringing it down to
No.
100,000 for 22, or
No,
but you're saying,
I should
okay,
have emphasized
Okay,
it's
for
20 That's
23.
where that 95,000 number
Okay.
roughly comes into use, that fund balance. So, yep, no, good question. Yeah.
and then what do you mean here if we choose to incorporate an admin revenue charge? What is that into the 23 general fund budget?
So that would be, and we've done that in the past with some of our larger bond projects, like the water treatment plants back in 2016 and the Halstead project. So because there's a lot of general fund time that goes into these projects, whether it's my time or Jasper's or other staff, so we've done usually like a 2% fee that the general fund that gets added to the project fund costs. So
Okay.
you basically add like 2%, which 8 million or so would be 160, 170,000, and you'd have that as general fund revenue, and it would be a project fund expense, and then that you'd incorporate that into the bond issue and stuff. So it's a way to sort of, I guess, more properly reflect that there is time.
Right.
Administrative
Okay.
time into it. It does help obviously balance the general fund. I think I've got that on page. It's like 6 or 7. It's. I think I tried to delineate. Yeah, so it's the bottom, or that third to the bottom number, admin charges on. It got cut off. They're sort of street, but that 170,000 there on the far right. So that's what that would. So obviously that's a general fund revenue. It's more of a one-time revenue, so because it doesn't. Repeat itself usually, other than we may have, we may be able to do this for both the street project and the water projects if the council so chooses, because there's administrative time
But
in those too. So.
For the admin time for the street project, though, that comes out of general fund anyway. Oh, so you're
It does-
saying you would roll it into the bond?
Yeah, and you sort of amortize it over the 20-year bond, then, and
Okay.
you sort of get the. Obviously, a lot of the time is up front as far as general fund costs, as far as staff time and stuff, and then it just becomes another project cost, like a legal or engineering or whatever, or the other indirect costs.
Okay.
How do you guys keep track of that, out of curiosity?
Oh, as far as that administrative fee,
Yeah.
we usually just have used a flat percent, like 1.5% or 2%. So versus trying to really mix more charge out our time to the projects. So it's sort of a general. When I've talked to like the Ellers and the financial advisors, they say a lot of cities use between 1.5%, 2% on average. So.
I can add something. I've seen it done 2 ways. You can do a lump sum payment at the beginning of the bond, or you can do it each year of the bond, and it equates to like $8,500 a year. The one thing to note is that we'll have to make up the 170 in the future, because that'll fall off. So that'll be revenue that we won't see in 2024. So there's a couple different ways. I'd say our preferred way is to do the lump sum at the beginning, and then adjust the future budgets accordingly.
I don't have a problem with that. My concern is that we're not increasing the road budget, and we're going to have to pay off the bond. And so then what are we talking about for 2024? Would we go up just the 125 to get to the 1 million, or would we go up even more to get back on track? Because we were on a path. Now we're pausing the path, and I don't like that.
Well, we're not pausing it because we're taking out an $8 million bond.
Right, but we
So-
gotta pay that. So, I mean, if we stop
Right.
adding up each year,
Right.
the growth was projected to keep going. We were gonna go past the million when we hit it, but now we're pausing it below the million. So,
Yeah, I would keep in the back of your mind for the 2024 budget the $90-some thousand deficit spending for 2023. We'll have to make that up to if we want to get to zero. The
So that's like 2%.
2%. The 170 lump sum, unless there's another project that comes in, we'd have to make that up in the budget. And then anything you want to, any of the gains you want to see in the street CIP, that would also be included in the 2024 budget. So just those 3 items alone, significant.
Would also end up being like an 8% increase.
Just with those items, nothing else.
Yeah. Unless you can cut somewhere, but, I mean, yeah. I understand where you're coming from, Kathleen. I think, though, that for this year, we should try and be as frugal as possible because of the increases that people are seeing in their valuations, and they think that their taxes are going to go through the roof, you know. So I think if we can show, well, like what Brian was showing, it's going to be a $41 or $125 annual difference. I think they'll be good with that. But it does sound, when you think about it, a 9% increase to the levy, it sounds like a lot, you know, when you think. But so it's actually 8.91, isn't it?
Or the net actually is just over. It's like 9.03 or whatever. So is the net just it's based on math? I think the gross is like 8.9, but the net, because it's a smaller number to a smaller number, is like not just over 9%.
So roughly 9%. Okay, but of that 9%, their growth is 3.3. So we're talking about a 6% increase, basically.
Right, and the projected tax rate is going down.
Correct. Yep. Yep. In some cities, I know I talked to a colleague of mine in the city of Medina, and she brought 13% to their council, and because their values are going up so much, their council said go to 20%. I don't know if that's where they'll stay at, but I think they've got a fire facility. There was something more to the story what they're saving money or wanting to save money for, but yeah, I don't know. I get a little leery of that because anyone that's been here a while knows the tax rate, the roller coaster that the city rode probably 10 years ago or so. So, yeah, that's.
I mean, the tax rate is something to look at, but it doesn't necessarily mean a lot in terms of what your taxes. I mean, it just basically, if you compare a $500,000 house in Minnetrista, the tax rate would be 19.26. If you compare that to Mound, and their tax rate is 36%, then they're, for the same value home, they're just going to be paying more in Mound than they are in Minnetrista.
Yeah, I think you have to say that on record, like you were doing, because if anybody hasn't, because I wasn't until I got here, if anyone doesn't know how all the taxes end up going into property formulas for the property taxes, and they see a 9% increase, that's scary.
Yeah. And so I think we need to make it clear, one, there's approximately a 3.3% growth in our city, new home growth, so that really reduces that down to less than 6%. And of that 6%, so when you say, so the $21 and $85, all of that is based on more or less, it should be then a 6%, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the different, how the formulas and the tax rate plays in there, but yeah, and that, obviously that $85 is probably about, 7% of the, just trying to do the math quick, between the 1155 and the 1250 or whatever, so, I mean.
So you're not going to not necessarily see a 9% increase. The difference, of course, is going to be how much your property value went up.
Yeah.
Because if yours went up more than your neighbors, you're going to be bearing more of the
If your
tax
property
burden.
only went up 10% for whatever reason, you're going to hardly see any change to your
Right.
taxes. But if your property went up 20-25%, you're going to see roughly that or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, comments?
You said one. For the county, the Hennepin County assessing,
Yep.
they just give you an amount that we're going to get charged, and that's it, right?
Oh yeah, for that line item, yeah. So I think it's going from like 178 to 198,000. Is that yeah? And they a lot of that's been driven by just the amount of growth in the city, the amount of activity, the amount of time that Kevin Wynn's our main contact from the county assessor. But
Is there any negotiating on that? I mean, it seems like seriously, because it seems like even though that's a good point, because even though let's just say we added 100 new homes, does it really take $20,000 more to do the assessments on those 20 new homes?
No,
I mean,
they're
I'm
pretty
just-
much cookie cutter homes.
Some of it I know they're trying to catch up a little. He sent me some information as far as that they really should be at 215 or 220, and they're trying to, and it's all probably relative, I guess. I mean, or whatever. as far
But here's the thing. We pay Hennepin County taxes, all of us do, so we should get a break. I don't know. I would just ask. I would just say, because we've gone from like 144 now to 198 in just a couple of years. I think it's only been 2 years. And so we've seen these pretty significant jumps. Maybe we could see smaller jumps.
And I know we've had them here. I don't know if it's been 2-3 years. There's some, we've had them here to talk about it.
Right.
Like Jim Atchison's came, I think,
Yeah.
from the county. So, I mean, whether I can ask some more questions.
It never
or-
hurts to ask, right?
Yeah. So I think for this year, they've sort of built this in, and maybe we can try to tell them to pause some of their increases or something for future years. Or maybe
And you don't even have to do that. Just bring it up. I mean, I just think that a jump of $20,000 is a rather large jump. And does that mean it's going to jump another $20,000 next year?
Looks
So
like
if
it.
you don't actually say something, I think anything could happen.
Yeah. Oh, and I've said stuff in the past.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as far as
All
other
good.
people can probably vouch. As far as that.
Would it help if the mayor
You
called?
said in 2000 when it only went up $5,000.
Yeah, that'd be better, right?
I mean, it's somehow or other, it seems to me that an extra 100 homes doesn't take an extra 20 grand to do it, but maybe it does. I don't know. I mean, okay.
That's
Nice
in-
comment.
Yeah. All right.
The alternative is we always have the option to do it ourselves, which is
We've talked about them in the past, not this council, and it's just, I don't know. It just,
It's hard.
it's really hard.
There's probably only there's a few cities that do it internally, if they're big enough, and then there's a few that contract with some local. I don't know if I'd recommend that, going with just a local appraiser or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically what they're doing. They're charging us a salary.
Right.
I mean, that's all it is. That's how much the assessor would be paid. So do we pay Hennepin County or do we have an assessor to pay them $198,000?
Right.
yeah. Oh, there's software costs and all of that. Those soft costs. I did pull up the email that Brian was referencing, and he said they received triple the amount of calls they normally do. So I know that they're
was because of their
trying to
increase.
recuperate. They're kind of a year behind, I think, on what they do. So, but
Yeah.
we'll let them know the directions.
No.
But I
Does
do
this
know.
catch them up then?
I think that was
They're
the goal.
behind.
Is
At what point?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they're getting closer because they've went from 158 to 170 to 190, and I know that some of the thing that they did reference is that they were behind. So hopefully this gets them a lot closer to. Not that it's just an annual $20,000.
No, but keep in mind, Kevin Wynn doesn't do our city solely. In other words, it's not a full-time job for Minnetrista. It's he does Minnetrista, Mound, which other ones? I think
I think he's been phased out a little in some of the other ones. I mean, Minnetrista has gotten to be more of a full time. He might do I can't remember. He does St. Bonnie, I think now, some stuff there. Or whatever,
okay.
so.
But even so, if he does 2 or 3 other communities, I'm thinking even if it's 60% of a full-time job. So anyhow, jokes. Anyhow, okay. So you'll ask or you'll mention it. All right. Other than that, we're good.
Just real quick, the fire contract for Mound went up, and I know Kathleen, you've done a really good job of capturing all this. It's like an $89,000 increase.
And most of that is the 72,000 moving over from being segregated, I guess, or set apart in a debt, to now the general fund, and then I think the rest is it's like
A formula.
It's
Yeah.
a formula.
Yeah, the
Getting
formula
a
based on the home
$15,000
values.
increase, so that's the rest then, or whatever.
Yeah, most of it's just the debt from the building moving into the regular payments.
And then they generally have like a 3 or maybe 4% increase, but they're pretty good about trying to keep it down. But it's the formula too that might
So next year,
that's going to alter.
Because it's big, it's like
Yeah.
30%.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think. Anything else? All right. So we'll move forward with that.
So the only question so was there any reason to bring anything back to the next work session budget related, or more be to look at that I know John's
And
not here tonight.
John's
but-
not here. You could maybe talk to him
Okay.
separately to
Okay.
see where he's at. But I think we're good. I think when we do the presentation at a council meeting, we definitely, as Ann pointed out, need to point out, one, there's like a 3.3% new home growth. So then it kind of acts as a, like about a 6% increase. And what does that mean? And we'll show them that and put a few more examples out there just so that,
Yeah, because when you use the words tax levy, which is what I heard when I first came in here, you think that's what your property taxes are going to do, go up 9%, or
Yeah.
5%, or whatever it is. And so the idea is to explain that that doesn't happen, because that year my taxes went down.
Sure.
And so it has to do with the formulas that have to do with Hennepin County. And we should explain, even if it's repetitious, each year,
Yeah.
we should actually explain that again.
right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So probably just bring it back to that first meeting in September, to a regular
I,
council meeting.
I think so,
presentation.
right. And
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about the water fund and those funds
Yep,
in
that'll be
between.
coming
And
up.
yeah,
I
that's,
sort of outlined that in the
Yeah.
packet as far
Yeah.
as in September, October.
yeah, okay.
All right.
And then we'll, and then probably we'll certify something like this. I mean, I would assume it would be this. I'm going to recommend we don't go lower than this right now. But then as we get closer to December, we can take a look at our fund balance and if we want to, maybe we don't, maybe we do, we'll see what we want to do there. So, all right.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. Good?
Good.
So now, language clarification for the sod installation.
All right. Madam Mayor, members of council, this is a requested item to put on as we've had some internal discussions about just the language in that section of code, 500.23 subdivision 7, in particular, a portion of section B. So what I've done is I think I've given everybody a sheet of paper with just some proposed language that I think captures the intent of what was discussed in kind of very simplistic way that will help us describe this to people that come in with questions about this. We had a question that came in, and that's kind of what spurred the discussion internally about it. But essentially, it outlines 3 different scenarios, either related to our drought conditions currently in Minnetrista or if we've issued a watering ban. Basically, level 1 would be the no drought intensity to D1 per the U.S. drought monitor, and we wouldn't have any restrictions at that point in time. So if you want
For putting down sod.
for putting down sod, correct. If we would move into a severe to exceptional drought, you would only you wouldn't be able to place sod between June 10th and August 10th.
Okay, so I have a question on that. I just thought of this. But if we're still in a severe drought on August 10th, why would we allow them to put down sod on August 10th? Why not say September 1st or something?
We could do that. I think
I'm just asking.
I think what I'm doing is just kind of trying to reiterate or confirm what was said at the last meeting.
Okay.
I mean, if we want to change it, we can definitely. We can
Okay.
change it. But I think that was the intent of what was described at the
Right.
at the meeting. So if that's something we want to look at, we can definitely look at revising the code to have something change.
I mean, I'm just wondering if it's a continuing drought even in August, why would we then allow sod to be placed?
That's logical, but what I don't know is how long does it take sod to take effect?
We-
months to 45 days.
So first September's okay.
September 1st would be fine.
Yeah.
I agree. August is still really warm.
I mean,
And
well, I'm just, yeah.
and Allison, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the August 10th is MnDOT best practice guidelines.
Correct. That's
Yeah.
where those dates came from.
Yeah, so that was what they had out there, but we can change it to whatever we'd like. So
Yeah, I mean, I just think if it is a severe or exceptional drought, we should just say no sod until September 1st.
Okay.
okay. The goal of this is just to bring back an amendment that will likely be on consent agenda to amend the code to make it more clear. So I can make that. That's what you'll likely see. And then if there's a city issued watering ban, then we wouldn't allow sod to be placed. So.
Right.
And the U.S. Drought Monitor, that's something that everybody can access. And if we are in a watering ban, we'll obviously be communicating that with the public, so they should know. And really, we're talking about the developers that our staff has a good working relationship with, so they know who to talk to and who to ask questions to. So,
Here's my only other comment would be, I think we should also make it mandatory that they get, so when they put sod down, regardless of when they put the sod down, they get a 30-day permit to water daily. Okay, because, and it's 30 days, and they have to get a permit, and they can water daily, but they have to adhere to the timing. So it'd be like, what is it? They can water.
No
Can't
watering
water
between
between
10 and 6. Put the no time in there.
Yeah. So, so they can water in the evening for, an hour, whatever it is, and then they can water in the morning. But, and they only get a 30-day permit. And the reason I'm asking that we add this is so that it's clear to them that they don't get to water incessantly for the whole summer. You know what I'm saying?
Who gets the permit, the builder or the homeowner?
The homeowner. It's as you buy our PD.
They're gonna know they need to get this? On
And we make that very
new
clear.
homes?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So like for the new homes, they're gonna know they need to get this?
Well, if we do revise the language to include this, we would include that in the informational packet we give to the homeowner or the developer when they get their certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
But I guess they could potentially get their sod before they get the CO.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that notification process works, but we get a lot of requests for the permits, so somebody's communicating that. I'm not sure who, but when they do come to our building, we're very clear about what the rules are. It's not just a free-for-all. You don't get to water as much as you want. It just allows you to keep your sod alive.
So when you issue a building permit, could it be included in that permit? I mean,
Permit on the bottom, there's notes you could add it to.
Yeah.
okay.
The question I have is, do you want that permit language included in the code? Or is it just an operational change, like where we add it to the packet and make sure Paul knows? And
Operational change.
You don't think of code change?
I think it needs to be in there.
Yeah, if we put it into a code, then it's a long-term pain. Where if you do just make it operational, it can change it on will, right? Yeah.
Was that good or bad?
Well, pending how things change and pending differences in sod and whatnot, they might not need 30 days. I mean, I don't know how grass development changes, but in 10 years, who knows how that'll work? It might be different. It might be more drought resistant sod that doesn't need as much water.
Well, so let me ask you this then. If we just make it an operational thing, can we enforce it then? With an ordinance, we can enforce, but if it's just whatever, can we enforce it?
it's like if we want to actually write a ticket of some sort if they're watering outside, I think we would likely rely on the city code that already outlines that.
Right, that would already be covered under the code, because even if they have a permit to water their new sod, if they're watering between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., that's a violation regardless of whether they have a permit or not. So that wouldn't need to be reiterated.
Okay,
anywhere
so
else.
the permit is only 30 days regardless.
It's 30 days, yep.
Okay, and so then if they continue to water, let's say daily after that, then they would fall under our watering restrictions or whatever. it might
Yes,
be.
they would be outside of that, because then they'd have to
Okay.
fall, after the 30-day permit is up, if there's not a watering ban, then they would have to,
But if they don't have a
Water.
permit, I mean, how can we enforce them to get a permit? I mean, that's my question.
I think if we notice that they're watering excessively and outside of when they should, the CSO would make contact and let them know they need a permit, and they,
Okay.
there'd be a conversation there saying, "Oh, I just put sod in." They'd say, "Well, go get a permit."
right. And I believe that has happened, not excessively, but that has happened, where we notice that somebody's watering new sod, and we
Okay.
know there's no permit,
There's no
so.
permit? Okay.
It doesn't happen very often, though, that's pretty rare.
So
Okay.
if they put in sod and they water for 30 days and there's still a drought and they have to stop watering, can they reapply for another permit?
They
Which-
could, but typically we wouldn't reissue it, because they've already been issued a
Yeah.
permit, so.
And drought or a ban? Because if it's just a drought, they can follow the every other day schedule.
Or
And the ban,
Yeah.
pending which ban, they could stand out there with a hose and water. 'Cause
Right.
last year they could have done that.
Yeah.
So they'd still be able to water their new sod, just not with your irrigation systems every day or at all.
Right. Okay, well, if we don't have to have it in the ordinance, then I'm fine, but I want to make sure we can enforce it and make sure that people are adhering to it. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, if the group is okay with the wording of this, we'll have legal counsel, the engineer, look at this and bring something forward to a future meeting to kind of clean it up and make it super crystal clear for anybody who's reading it.
Okay.
And then
All right.
the September 1st date.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, September 1st date, we'll add that.
All right. And the B&M, Bolton and Mink invoice.
All right, I can speak to this item. We added this item to the agenda because there's a claim on the regular meeting agenda for $1,636 related to the interconnect with Minnetrista, the engineering cost that St. Bonifacius has incurred. Through reviewing the memo that WSB and Allison and their water crew put together and submitted to them. I've handed out the invoice. You all should have it, what we received. As you can see, there isn't much description in there as far as what actual work was done. I did do a little due diligence just as far as the timing goes to make sure that it matches up. We presented, or we're at the St. Bonnie City Council meeting on April 20th. Allison, I believe, submitted the memo to Jake from Bolton and Mink on the 18th of May. I checked the emails and confirmed that's when I got it, and then you said it's sent out. They started reviewing it on the 19th is what this says. So it matches up as far as the timing goes. It's just we haven't received any information about what their review has. From what I know, I don't think we've heard anything back. I've spoken to Brenda Fisk, the city clerk over there as well, and they hadn't known anything. I have reached out to Brenda as well, and I haven't heard anything back yet, but I have let her know that we were pulling this and we're going to talk about it at the work session. I think it'd be completely appropriate if we would just, if you would like to, if you feel the same way, pull the claims off, pull this out, and then wait until we get a little bit more information about what they're doing, kind of when we're going to get some information about the conversation about the interconnect, if it still has some legs potential as a project, or if it's just in their eyes something that they don't want to pursue. I
think we'd want to know exactly what these dates are and what they did on those dates, because it's like we have no idea.
Yeah, no.
I mean, if it's just reviewing the report that you did, it takes about 5 minutes to review it. So, I'm having a hard time here. And then they have, admin half an hour, and then Jake had to review it twice. And how many times do you have to review a report? So I would really want clarification.
Yeah.
The other thing is, they haven't given us information. Are there going to be additional charges on top of this?
I would anticipate so. Yes, I think that this is. We would likely see a memo of some sort returned to the St. Bonnie City Council and then to us. So I'm guessing there would be some more. I think my estimate, it was probably in that $2,000 to $3,000 range is what the expectation was as far as what the total cost would be. We're probably trending toward a little bit more than that based on this one invoice we've received. So. We just want to have an open conversation about this. If City Council wants to pull that off of the claims, we can do so in the regular meeting. I'll continue to try to gather some additional information about it. But I think I've checked in about a week and a half ago too, and there wasn't anything new.
So their city council hasn't seen anything either?
Correct.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's 9 hours of work. There should be some document supporting it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So if that's the direction, somebody would just pull claims off consent, pull that item out of the claims, and then approve the claims without that item in there.
Got it. All right. Sounds good. Wow. We're done early. You guys are good. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Kathleen. And is there a second?
I'll second.
And then Pam seconded that. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes 4-0.